Hello and welcome to my review of the Orks Big'ed Bossbunka for Warhammer 40,000 from Games Workshop. This fortification unit scenery piece for Orks will cost you £40, which isn't too bad considering the size of the unit. It is of course £10 more than the previous scenery kit that they released, the Mech Boy Workshop, which seemed like a bargain. On the whole, you are getting more surface area with this kit though, and I think it looks cooler. If the head looks familiar, it's actually the size of a Gargant's head, which is an Orc Walker, similar size to a Warlord Titan. I always find that Orc Walkers are certainly pretty big compared to their Imperial counterparts. You only have to look at the size of the Stomper in plastic, which is pretty much the same size, if not a bit bigger than a Warhound Titan. The head, of course, if you can imagine the head of this Gargant being about 5 or more times larger than a Warlord head, then you get some idea. It's a pretty big head, hence the name Big'ed. What they've done though is they haven't yet built another Gargant, so the Orcs have decided to use it as a boss bunker. More on the rules later on. Firstly, let's have a look at the detail and discuss how easy it was to put together. It is a multi-part kit. It's not easy to build. There's no plugs and sockets or anything like that. It's made in China, which means that you're going to be getting the harder, darker plastic, which is more difficult to work with. And it falls in line with every other scenery kit, be it Age of Sigmar or Warhammer 40,000. They make all of their kits in this plastic now, and they have done for a number of years. You've got 3 big shooters. I guess you can sort of change their position if you wish. You could put tiny little magnets there and magnetize them, but I'm not sure how well they'd hold up. I've just glued mine in place. There are no other weapon options. You know, what you see is what you get. You can't put rockets or mega blasters on there or anything like that. You do get 2 loose parts, and again, you don't need to necessarily glue this tannoy system or whatever, but you get these 2 weapon crates. You know, it just looks like Orcs have just thrown in bullets and cartridges and all kinds of things. It's not as sort of neat and tidy and uniformed as the Imperium ammo crates, but there we go. The detail on this is pretty good considering it's the sort of lower quality plastic. It went together quite well. There's no major gaps. You've got interlocking plates. The one thing I will say, which is a bit of a pain, but nowhere near as much of a pain as with the Orc scenery in the Kill Team set, is the mould lines. These mould lines are very stubborn to remove, and it's one of the features. It's one of the downsides of this harder, cheaper plastic. There's a lot of mould lines, and they are stubborn to get off. I typically use my resin files to remove this. I wouldn't put the Games Workshop ones anywhere near it. They're just too fine. The grit isn't up to par. But you can definitely see a load of Orc aesthetics. I mean, this side of the head has got a load of tyres there from the different buggies. You've got these big tusks here. You've got this eye of the Gargant, which is actually a laser weapon, which is quite cool. It's not as long a range as I expected it to be, but you know, that's Orcs for you. They definitely want all of their Titan equivalent units to be up close and personal with other Titans, where they can do the most damage. Even a Stomper's Mega Chopper is stronger than a Warlord's Ariok Power Claw. Put that in perspective, it's going to be doing a lot of damage, so who only knows what kind of massive choppers and claws and things that that Gargants could have. But yeah, you've got this fan. You've got like slits for the eyes and a nose. That does look a bit odd, having like a hole in the nose and a gap there. And I've just now spotted another mould line, so I'm going to have to remove that. Yeah, it's just there and there, and I don't think there's one on that slit though. But yeah, that's where mould lines are tricky and easy to miss, is like with the gaps in between the the parts. I think I did that one right though. But yeah, you've got some canisters there. You know, there are holes and pieces all around. Look at these exposed rebars there. But yeah, that's the Big Ed. You know, you can fit a fair few models on. Let's just move over to the size comparisons now. You don't get any spare parts. It's unfortunate, but then again, you didn't really get any with the Mech Boy Workshop. So I've got one of the new Ork boys from the Combat Patrol right here, yeah, you can fit. They're on these 32mm bases, which is a bit awkward. You know, it means that because they're not on the 25, you can't fit as many in. You could probably fit a few in. I wouldn't think that you could fit in your 5 flash kits on there. I mean, their range is only 24 inch anyway, but you can fit a couple of Orks on here, like maybe 4, but not a huge amount. So again, I kind of, yeah, they could probably have 4 up here manning the guns, but yeah, they are limited in space, as you can see. I would have liked this area to be a bit bigger, but the head is already, you know, big to start off with. So that's where it stands up next to like normal Orks. You know, it's quite a large fortification. It's going to be one of your largest Ork units. You know, compared to a Death Dread, which is usually quite a medium-sized to large unit, and then a Death Copter. You know, it towers above those. I've recently finished the Killer Rig. Oops, it's a drunk Ork, and as you can see, it's bigger than a Killer Rig. You know, it's taller. So I think it would be a little bit taller than a Gorkanaut, but nowhere near as tall as a Stomper. So that gives you an idea of just how big this Big Ed is. Yes, of course, it is bigger than Ghazghkull, sort of like 2.5 times as tall as Ghazghkull, and unfortunately you can't fit Ghazghkull on the top. That would have been nice if you could, but you can certainly fit the new Ork War Boss in Mega Armor at the top, and that is his bunker. He is the king of the castle. So there you go. I think we'll just keep him up there for the rest of the review. But yes, compared to the typical Imperial models that I normally do the size comparisons with, I think you can guess that it's way taller than a Primaris Marine. So there you go. Space Marine barely comes up to the foot of one of those tusks, and the same for the Primaris actually. You know, it's a long way up. It's quite a tall unit. And even if you were playing on a battlefield, where you just wanted to use it as scenery, it fits in really nicely with like the kill team walls and things. You know, you could have a wall each side, maybe even sort of like that. It's gonna fit very well, the aesthetics, and they're all gonna match. You've got, you know, like a scrap heap there as well. So if you're into Orks and you want to view it as another piece of Ork scenery, this is gonna go very, very well and fit the army. It's so big it barely fits into view, and it barely fits onto my turntable there. But this is my part of the review where I will go through all of the rules for this Big Ed Bossbunka. And yes, it does have rules. So you'll find it in the fortification section of your Ork Codex, alongside the Mech Boy Workshop. It will cost you a little bit more than a Mech Boy Workshop, and that will be 5 power points, 75 points. Then you're going to have to pay 5 points, and then you're going to have to pay 5 points for all of the big shooters each. You can also purchase a shouting pole. So again, those big shooters, they're all optional. You don't have to put them on, and so is the shouting pole. So you could have one, I say naked, without all of the gubbins on the top. So what do you get for these 75 points? Well, it's a building vehicle, which is quite rare. So that means that the number of wounds that it has remaining affects its stat line. It starts off with 12 wounds, and if it's got 7 or more, its ballistic skill is 5+, its strength is 6, toughness 8, and leadership is 7, and a save of 3+. When it's got between 4 and 6 wounds, ballistic skill is still the same, even though it's highlighted in red. And then when it goes down to 1 to 3 wounds remaining, its ballistic skill drops to 6+, and everything else stays the same. So it's really odd that even though it's a building vehicle and it has wounds, and they've specifically put, you know, number of wounds remaining, the only thing that ever changes is the ballistic skill, and that's only when it has between 1 and 3 wounds. It's equipped with a big shooter and a gaze of Gork. So this gaze of Gork is this 24-inch range like laser weapon from its eye. But the big shooters, they work as usual. They're a 36-inch range, DACA 5/3, strength 5, AP 0, damage 1. And then the gaze of Gork, before selecting targets, you select one of the profiles. So it's got 2 firing profiles. It can either squint or glare. So the squint is quite a short range of 18 inches. It's a heavy one, strength 9, AP -4, damage 3, so a little bit like a las cannon but 18 inches. Each time an attack is made with this weapon profile, select one eligible target unit, draw a straight line between the closest point of the bearer's base or hull and that of the closest model in the target unit. Make one wound roll against the target unit, and each other unit this line passes over. Each time an attack is made with this weapon profile, that attack automatically hits the target. So that's nice. Of course, the enemy will want to be avoiding this altogether at such a close range, and I also question the number of units along the line of sight for an 18-inch weapon, but you know, I guess it can happen. It's nice that it automatically hits the target, so it does deter any close combat units getting close to it. The glare profile is a bit longer range. It's 24 inches, it's heavy D6, strength 5, AP -1, damage 1, and it's a blast weapon. Each time the weapon profile is selected, you select a point on the battlefield within this weapon's maximum range and resolve attacks against every eligible unit within 3 inches of that point, determining visibility from that point. Determine the number of attacks separately for each eligible enemy unit. So that works a little bit differently. You're going to have to pick a point to its maximum range and then resolve attacks within 3 inches of the point. It's almost like going back to the old blast templates. I think that's what they were trying to communicate in this. I do wish it was 36 inches instead of 24 inches, and likewise I wish the squint was 24 inches instead of 18, but there we go. Either way, the gaze of Gork can deter them a little bit. You may well be doing more damage with the 4 big shooters though, because that's going to be a minimum of 12 shots or a maximum of 20. Shouting pole. While a Warboss model is embarked upon this transport, the bearer gains that Warboss model's Warbossed, Beast Boss or flashiest Gitz aura ability. That's pretty nice. So getting any Warboss on there, it's going to get the aura ability. This model can be equipped with up to 3 additional big shooters. This model can be equipped with a shouting pole. Abilities: Ramshackle War, open topped. In your shooting phase, units embarked within this transport can be selected to shoot with, measure distances and draw line of sight from any point on this transport when doing so. Embarked models are considered to have remained stationary unless they embarked this turn. Explodes. When this transport is destroyed, roll 1d6 before any embarked models disembark before removing it from play. On a 6 it explodes and each unit within 6 inches suffers d3 mortal wounds. Transport. This model has a transport capacity of 10 Flash Gitz or Orks infantry models. Each mega armor or jump pack model takes a space of 2 models. Keywords: Orks, building, vehicle, transport, Big'ed Bossbunka. So it is a transport. It can't move, so you can put 10 Flash Gitz in there if you wish, or you know, 10 looters, or 10 snagger boys, or you know, whatever really. Which is quite nice. Gives them a bit of protection because it is toughness 8 and does have a save of 3+, so you can certainly leave them in there as an alternative to, like, I say deep striking them, but you know what I mean. It's a shame that the shouting pole doesn't have like a 30-inch range or 20-inch range, something like that, so that orcs can hear over the tannoy system orcs' words of encouragement. It does happen. Ghazghkull's given them encouragement many times before, and they do respond very well to that. I just would have liked to have seen some kind of ability. I would have liked to see some custom force field type shielding ability as well, that could shield killer cans or death dreads, or just your unit. Maybe they'll add that in the future. It would be cool if instead of the shouting pole you had an option of having a custom force field, even if it was like 12-inch range, you know, to give the bunker added protection, because it is just really vulnerable to long range fire, and the only thing it can hit out with is those big shooters. So I would have liked to have seen them just improve on this, and maybe they will in the next edition or sometime in the future. But overall, I think it's a great addition to the Orc force, and really to Xenos scenery, if you're going to use it that way. I'm a big fan whenever I see anything sort of non-Imperial to support the Xenos releases, and it's great that Orcs now have a second piece. Well, I'll say a second piece. They've got the kill team scenery as well, which was a great addition too. What do you guys think of the Big'ed Bossbunka? I think it's great. It's nice to see a Gargant head in the range. But please do put your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. As always, it'd be great to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. For Gork and Mork.